Hello everybody, welcome back to JoJo Pitter Patter Pop. Today we're doing a quick one just talking about William Zeppeli, the new character that just came out. He's in the Step Up banner right now along with an SR version of Strizo. He is okay. I think that's pretty much the best way I can put it. So if you see here, at skill level 2, he gains an additional 1 Hamon cutter. At skill level 4, he drops 4 cutters. And then at skill 5, his cooldown comes down to 75. That's still pretty slow. That's the same cooldown as like Jonathan, who generally his biggest drawback, yep, 75. His biggest drawback is that his cooldown is mediocre. That's really the only drawback to Jonathan, to be honest. So we're gonna go ahead and show what the Hamon cutters can do. It's a good enemy. Did I even do this yet? Yeah, that's okay. Fugo might kill you though, buddy. Sorry. Man, he's another one where he really benefits from someone like Fugo. We'll just do this. Screw it. I don't need the heart anyway. He really benefits from someone like Fugo who can leave tiles that his Hamon cutters can interact with. Because if they don't have anything to interact with, they're really not doing anything. So a lot of people have asked me, is he a must-have character? Should I pull for this guy? My answer is probably not. From a standpoint of I want to pull all the best stuff. No, this guy is not your guy. He's not who you want to go for. He's not the worst character in the world, but he's not great. He's pretty solidly somewhere in the middle of just sort of hanging out, being a guy. If you really like Zeppeli or you really like Phantom Blood and you want a character from it that's good, he's no Jonathan, that's for sure, but he's up there, like, as far as Phantom Blood characters go. So here's the Hamon cutter. He actually broke a spot that my cutter should have gone in. So let's see if we can get it to work. Don't you break my cutter. He did not. Okay. So there you go. He does 19k, and then right here is another... Oh, that's a 25k. Pretty good damage. If you get all 4 of those cutters, he's probably going to do roughly similar damage as Mista does with Fugo. So that's pretty good. The issue really with him is that his skill is so manual. I know that sounds like a really bad negative to give a character when you're playing a video game, that you actually have to look at what you're doing. But it is kind of a problem when you look at other characters like Mista, who I think is Zeppeli's best direct comparison. Because when you have someone who's erasing tiles like this, you're really trying to get to a position where you're going to blow up a charged up tile like Fugo's. So there you go, blow that up. Did some pretty good damage there. Oh, hey, thank you for copying those. That's actually very helpful for me. But see, now we're in a position where, okay, we got to get it down. There we go. Pop it. Now, how are we even going to get this one down? See, we can't get it down, so we just need to let it go. Whereas someone like Mista, I'm not going to keep saying someone like Mista. Whereas with Mista, who is the direct counterpart, I feel like, to Zeppeli's Hamon cutter, is that you don't need to sit there and worry about manually getting everything in place. Mista's just going to get the job done. Like, see, we're having trouble even hitting those bottom ones with the Hamon cutter because we can't get down there. Now, I'm sure there's better players out there than me. Oh, see, he cleared a spot, and now both the Hamon cutters missed. Now, I'm sure there's better players out there than me that are capable of easily manipulating Zeppeli's position on the board. And the Hamon cutter does pretty good damage when it clears a full row. I think it does about 10k, maybe a little bit more. The problem, of course, being that 10k times 4 cutters is only 40k, whereas if you're doing something like 25k per cutter, you're breaking 100k, right? So it's hard to say that he's completely irredeemable because I don't think he is. I think there's probably some really cool combos you can do at higher skill levels with him, where you can kind of do some fancy stuff. I think Fugo is probably his best partner, so that Hamon cutter has something to cut. But, I mean, you know, the problem is, compare him to Mista at the same skill level. At skill level 1, Mista breaks 2 tiles. So at skill level 1, assuming that you hit both of Fugo's tiles, Zeppeli is going to be better, because Zeppeli is going to break more. At skill 2, Zeppeli still is going to be better, assuming that you hit both. If you hit both cutters on Fugo's tiles, at skill 2, Mista's only hitting 3 of those blocks. He's not hitting them all. Now, at skill 3, Mista pops all the blocks without trying, and that's when he really starts overshadowing Zeppeli. Because no matter what you do, Zeppeli can't break more tiles than Mista can break. Now, the only time after this that Zeppeli is still going to be better than Mista is in stages where the boss locks a lot more tiles, because Mista targets any locked tile, and he's not guaranteed to break Fugos. So he's sort of he's a guided Mista that you can direct. The problem is that you can't direct him that well. Like, yeah, you can manipulate the board to drop his tile down and do whatever you want to do with it, but it's not the same as someone like Caesar. Now, Caesar, where are you, Caesar? Here you are. Caesar drops packets of bubble tiles. That's that 3 right there. Is he drops 3 2x2s, so a square of bubbles. But you can move the bubbles. You can move them however you want, and then when you pop one of the bubbles, it pops all the adjacent bubbles that it's touching. So when you can actually move and create a combo using Caesar's skill, it's a whole lot different than Zeppeli, where you can't actually move the Hamon cutter where you want it to go. And I don't really know why they did that, because I don't think being able to move the Hamon cutter would be super overpowered. I mean, Part 4 Jotaro is in the game, and he's absolutely ridiculous. So I think letting Zeppeli move the Hamon cutter and aim it directly, he would be really good. I think he'd be a very high-tier character. The way he is right now, I don't think he's really there, because the board really can impact your ability to do that. Like you saw when we were fighting Abakio, we couldn't even get to that bottom row. Whereas someone like Mista, he doesn't have that limitation. He would have popped every tile. So I think Zeppeli is probably maybe lower mid tier, you know, right around your Kakuins and your Part 3 Jotaros. Not terrible, usable for sure, not amazing. Now maybe someone's gonna prove me wrong with a 6 skill level 5 Zeppeli in the future in score attack mode. I don't really see that happening. As far as tier listing goes, because this is a question I get a lot. When are we going to see a tier list? When are we going to, where's the tier list or whatever? So here you go. These are the best 2 characters in the game right here. Part 4 Jotaro is by far and away the best character in the game. He has the most ridiculous utility of anybody in the entire game because of the time stop. There's only 2 characters in the whole game that can stop time. It's him and Part 3 Dio. But Part 3 Dio, all you can do with him is rearrange the board and then wait for the time stop to end for the tiles to go away. Part 4 Jotaro breaks the tiles in the time stop, which means the board keeps cycling. And also, when he breaks those tiles, they do a ton of bonus damage. So if you pair him up with someone like Koichi or Rohan, you can get a ton of damage right off the bat. Or you can run this team right here and just let Jotaro and Fugo keep charging each other's specials, so you can just spam the crap out of them. I have a video on those guys that I'm sure if you're watching this, you've probably seen. This is a really good team. When it comes to tiering characters other than these 2, one, it's dependent on the type of content that you're doing, because erasers like Okuyasu are not going to be as valuable as a tile changer like Giorno in any event with a tile that double locks, for example. In general, erasers like Giorno are better. Or, I'm sorry, erasers like Okuyasu are better than Giorno. So it's hard to say exactly who's going to be better. I think you can make a general case for characters being better than other characters, but I don't like the idea of saying someone like Mista or, Giorno are always not that good, because it's not the case. It depends entirely on the content that you're doing, especially with a lot of the specialty challenges in a lot of these events. Like, I think it was the last event with King Crimson that required you to get a certain number of 4x4 or 3x3 blocks, or even 2x2s. That might even be in the Zeppeli event too. I don't 100% know. Eraser characters, who are generally the better characters, do nothing for those, and then they're valueless there. So, outside of score attack, where everybody is trying to accomplish the same goal, which is simply to get as many points as you can possibly get, it really starts dropping off, like, the value of a tier list. Do you really need to go at the King Crimson event with Jotaro and Fugo to win? Absolutely not. You could take that event on with probably anybody in the game and do just fine. That's not to say some characters don't do it better than others, because they do, but I don't think a tier list in this kind of game, it's not Dokkan Battle where it's like, oh, this character doesn't do enough damage on this team to be better than this character, so he's really not that high up on it's not that serious. In single player content, the best character for the task is whatever character is clearing the particular mission that you're on. In King Crimson, the best characters are the ones who are clearing those King Crimson tiles, the locked tiles, more efficiently so he doesn't break it. Same with Bruno. Whereas in score attack mode, you need to score as high as possible, and that's when you can really start objectively comparing units on a flat basis, because everyone's fighting on an even playing field, and points are all that matters. That's where a tier list kind of comes in handy, and maybe I'll make a score attack tier list one day. But I think a lot of people aren't trying to break 5+ million, in score attack. They don't really care that much. They want to get through events and content that's right in their face. So I think the better way to deal with events and stuff like that is to look at your box and just find units that are well built to clear the type of content that you're up against. For example, Pesci, Yukako, those are units who are really good at clearing those particular missions, stuff like creating the boxes or, getting big stand-up times. Pesci is the king at getting big stand-up times with your changers. Doesn't really reflect that well in score attack mode because the damage isn't high enough. So generally, he wouldn't be considered a high-tier character. But it's all about where you're using him. It's all about what you're trying to do with him. So that's my thoughts on tier listing. That's why I haven't made one. That's why I probably won't make one for a while. And if I do, it will only be geared towards score attack mode. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm sorry that wasn't an entirely Zeppeli focused episode. I think it could have been if he was a little bit different, but he's just sort of a guided Mista that you really can't control that well. So it's up to you guys if you want to use him. If you guys have any cool combos with him that you want to show off and you want to tell me, shut up, Zen, I use him with this guy and he's amazing. More power to you. I would love to see it. You can tell me in the comments or on Twitter or whatever. Thanks, guys. You have a good night.